marketing for insurance agents. How are you guys doing? It is so exciting to be with you guys today. We have an amazing guest that's going to be part of everything that we're going to be talking about. Here's this thing, John. You're in this $1 million vehicle, but you're not making $1 million. Even though you work hard, we're seeing agents call these leads, follow up on their leads. Funny thing, do this 8 days a week when there's only really 7 days in the work week. Well, what if there was one surefire way to generate more production consistently, predictability, and efficiently? What is that one thing without having to buy, call, or beg people for more leads to buy insurance from you? John, can you share what that is tonight?
Yeah, absolutely, Trista. But before I get there, I really have to talk about this because it's the biggest thing I hear all the time. As anywhere I'm coaching, either my direct agencies, any other outside agencies that I work with or coach or train, this is the number one question I get. Where's the best place to get leads? Where should I buy leads? What's the best lead vendor? And people will spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on leads and knowing that they're going to have an extremely low closing ratio. That's the nature of the lead base. Everybody that's done that before has experienced that. Yet when it comes to the highest closed leads that you could potentially have, not just potentially, I know that you will have, it is existing clients that you already have a relationship with. I want you to really, people that are listening right now, to think about that. You will go spend $1,000 this week in buying leads, but 99% of you, if I asked you right now, what is your system to continually message, communicate, have a relationship, and market to your existing clients? Most of you would not be able to tell me what that is. That is the number one thing that I see, that if you can nurture your clients and the cross-sell opportunities, not just additional products, referrals that you can get from your clients, and they are already warm prospects. They already have a relationship with you and they're already paying you premium dollars. Yet we throw them to the wayside and we'll spend thousands of dollars on new cold leads every single day without nurturing the relationship with our existing clients. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how do you do this? How do you cross-sell into your book of business? There is an art and science to the way to do it. I will tell you that most of you are probably doing it wrong, but we're going to talk through that. And that's really what I would tell you is that if you can start to wrap your head around thinking around the value of your client, it has been stated before that the value of bringing in a new client is 7 times more expensive than building and nurturing the relationship with your existing clients. Yeah. The cost to bring in a new lead is 7 times more. Think about that. Think about what you're spending today in your advertising, marketing, lead generation, whatever it is. If you could reduce that cost, I'm not saying to stop doing those things, but if you could reduce that cost, if you had a system to nurture a relationship with your clients and cross-sell additional product lines, it would be a game changer for you.
Yeah. And it's so true too, even taking that a step further, John, like as insurance agency owners, something that we should be, I'm hoping that we all are aware of this, or we should be tracking what our return on investment is. And when you're implementing that cross sells and referrals and getting those warm leads, then your return on investment is going to be much higher because you're not having to go spend, like you said, 7 times more money just to go get a cold lead that may not even become a client. And so what better way to have a more effective return on investment than doing the very thing that you're going to talk about tonight, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For sure, Trista. So, and there's so many different facets to it. And we're going to break that down a little bit. We're going to give you guys some key points to really think about how you approach this. It's not difficult. But again, it's because of what the industry has taught us that you have to buy leads. You have to continue purchasing leads. It's just the way that the business works. And you think about that. What are you doing to establish solid relationship with your clients that they know that you are the only option for insurance? Tristan and I were talking about that before we got online today. When your clients know that you are the only option for insurance, I always tell people, this is a good analogy I want everybody to take this with. Would you rather have 1,000 clients with 1 policy, or would you rather have 100 clients with 10 policies? I'll tell you, I'm number 2. 100 clients that could potentially call me on the phone and complain, I'll take that all day versus 1,000 customers that could call and take my time or my team's time. But when you start to change your mindset to think about how do I increase the product density in my households, it's less people to manage, more premium dollars, and more products that you have in every single household. So you have to start thinking about that today if you've never done this before. It is the game changer of how you build your agency long-term, you keep your costs down, and you keep better retention for your book of business. But number 1, when I start to think about cross-sell, now I'm going to focus a little bit tonight on talking about cross-sell in life. But I want you to understand that really this doesn't matter what that additional product line is. If you're a property and casualty agency that happens to sell life insurance, this may make a lot of sense. But I don't care if you're a health insurance agent that has the ability to sell life insurance, or a Medicare agency, or any different thing. The concept and the logic behind it applies to every line of business that you have the ability to offer to your clients. I always look at my insurance, regardless if I was in the industry. If I have a problem with my insurance, do I want to have to call 5 different agents for 5 different policies, or do I want to call one agency that can look at all of my business in one time? That is the biggest differentiator between you that are on this call today that are agents in the business versus the 1-800s out there or the direct-to-consumer models. They buy an agent because you can take care of all those needs in one place, and you can be that point of contact. So that's the number one thing I tell people to think about, is that that is part of your value proposition. You have the right to earn more, charge more if you are doing this correctly, because you can be a one point of contact for all lines of business for your clients. Now, I understand some of you guys may not sell every single line of business, but you have to do the best at your ability to get every line of business that you offer in your client's household. I'll use the analogy that Trista said earlier about being a doctor being so important. I look at it as malpractice. If you are not offering the products that you have available to your clients, that's malpractice. Lawsuits have actually been won where clients have said, hey, I was never offered these products. Why didn't I have it when my agent could have offered it? So you have to think about it in that concept. So that's the first thing I would tell you. It's a mindset change to say, okay, what do I really need to do this for, and why? That's the number one reason. The second thing that you have to start thinking about is, how are you going to segment your book of business to have the greatest impact for cross-sell? So I'm going to give you some highlights. If you don't know this, or you don't have a CRM today, that's probably something you want to definitely look into, but you need to have some way to sort your book of business. If I was to come and sit in your agency and give you a coaching session today on this specific topic about how to cross-sell, one of the first things I'm going to say is, Trista, can you tell me how many home, no life households do you have in your book of business? If you don't know that number, or you can't access it, then you're sitting on leads that you have access to at no cost that are right there and available for you. You've got to do the research. That's one list. Home, no life. If you're a PNC agent, auto, no life. Another one that is of primary importance that I think every agency should know, you should know a ranking of all of your households by premium. All of your highest premium households should be receiving the best relationship from you than any other household. And from my experience, your highest premium households tend to be the less managed households anyway. They understand insurance, they pay for it, they see the value in it, and they tend to take the least amount of your time. So those are things that you have to understand. You can't have a good marketing system, regardless of what it is, if you don't have a system to track it. So how do you segment your agency? You should be able to know all of your households by line of business and what lines of business they don't have within those books of business, and you need to know your highest premium households. So those are the crucial components, and I'll talk to some more here in just a minute, but I want to open it up, Trista, whatever you're thinking right now, what's going through your mind, or if we have any questions that are already coming through around that.
No, it's such a great point, is having that CRM system in place. Like, after you get to like 5 customers, like in your book, there's no way you're going to keep track of who has who has what line, and all of that is so important to have something in place and to have those lists. And I would even say, with you, and I would challenge you, if you guys are an agency right here and you guys are like, man, I have access to that. But I would say, when's the last time you printed that off? When's the last time that you actually looked at it and did a study on it? One thing that I did is every January in my agency, when it's a new year, I would pull those lists and say, okay, who do I need to go after? And then I set a campaign around that to go after. My CSRs would reach out to them. I would have touch points with them. I would bring them into the office. I would sit down with them. I would speak to them. Because if they have a home, there's a reason for a life insurance policy. If they have auto, there's a reason for a life insurance policy. There's always reasons for you to be able to cross-sell, to insure. And it's something that John said is so true. Most people today, when they're talking about insurance, they want to have everything, or as much as everything, in one place. I don't want to have to call insurance company A for my house, but then call insurance company B for my auto and insurance company C for my life. And in fact, John, there's a statistic out there that says, like, customers that are just monoline, they just have one line with you, they're not sticky customers. They're more likely to shop. They're more likely to leave. They're more likely to give you guys a headache. And you guys probably all have those headache clients. But statistics show that when they have more than one line of business with you, at least 2 to 3 lines of business, they're more likely to stay a customer with you. And in fact, if they have a life product with you, they're more likely to be a customer of yours for life, because most people don't want to take that life policy and move it at all. And so they just stay with you and you have that customer for life. So if you guys are looking at your book and you have a lot of monoline customers, you are literally sitting on a gold mine and you're not doing your job to the best of your ability because you're not insuring them properly.
Yeah. So what I'm going to add to that, Tristan, and I think it's so important. I mean, we have to look at both sides of the coin, right? So she says you're sitting on a gold mine. I would also tell you on the flip side of that, if you're sitting on a monoline book of business, you're sitting on an explosive mine at the same time. And so I love statistics. Numbers don't lie. Part of what I'm doing in this process, I'm going to be teaching this cross-selling techniques, and I'm big on numbers. And so what Trista's talking about there, it is almost a 25% difference in retention. Adding one line, you add in life into that component, it drops. It's another increase of about 30 to 35%.
Yeah.
So you're talking of potentially going from a 60% retention in your households of monoline up to 90 to 95% by adding additional lines of business. What you start to think about, and I want you all to understand this, if you're on this live right now or you're watching on this recording, you have to spend so much in leads because you're losing people out the back door. If you're only retaining 60% of your customers, that tells me if you have a book of business that has 1,000 customers or 1,000 policies, you're going to lose 400 of those customers every single year based on just natural attrition with that retention. So what that also tells me, you have to write 401 policies to grow your agency before you even start growing.
Yeah.
If you change that retention by 10 points, now you're talking about, I'm going to have to sell 300 policies a year.
Yeah.
20%. Now you got to sell 150. That's what the difference in retention can do, and why cross-selling is so, so important. The other point I want to talk about is specifically when we talk about cross-selling life. This is the major injustice that all of us, I'll raise my hand, I've done it myself, that we do in this industry. We sell auto insurance every single day. We sell home insurance every single day. We sell health insurance every single day. We sell Medicare insurance every single day. And we sell those policies with the hope and the intention that our customers don't make any claims. Yeah. We don't want them to get into accidents. We don't want them to have a home fire. We don't want them to have a major medical issue. We don't want any of those things to happen, right? And we sell those policies with that intention. Yet, the one policy that we have the ability to sell that we are guaranteed that they will have a claim, we don't offer and we don't present it to our clients. That is malpractice. Life insurance is the only product that you offer that is guaranteed to have a claim if there is a policy in force. You may live your entire life and never have a claim on your home insurance. That's very, very possible. But life insurance, there is a guarantee that we are all going to end at some point, and we are going to leave someone or something behind that we want to take care of. Yeah. So you think about that. When you think about your book of business, if you are soliciting your people for products that they may never have a claim on, but you're not talking about the most important one that's guaranteed to have a claim, shame on you. You're doing something wrong. Yeah. Okay. So I don't mean to shame you. That's all I'm trying to say. I just want you guys this to sink in for all of you that are watching this, to say, this is the value of why we do this. Okay. So we've started to break down. We started talking about what you have to have access to your book of business and how to segment it. And I've just given you a couple of different tips. The second component of that is you need to understand, what are you going to say? So just because you have the list, and Trista talked about it, she had some lists that she would run every January. But if you don't have a systematic approach of how you're going to approach these clients, what I will tell you most agencies do, and some of you that are listening right now do this, and you're guilty of it just like I was, we oversell our customers. We make the call and we say, hey, Trista, I was looking at your file and we don't have your auto insurance. Can I give you an auto insurance quote? Who wants to receive that call? Not very many people. So we change our scripting in a different fashion. So when I teach and I train people about how we do this, one of the greatest tools that you can use, it's 2 words. I teach people this all the time. You use these words in your cross-selling or in any part of your agency, you will have success. Those simple words are, I'm sorry. Yeah. What I mean by that is, Trista, I was doing a review of your household and I'm sorry. I recognize that you're missing one of the most important coverages and I cannot find it in your file. Do you have time that you and I can meet to discuss this? Yeah. Now that could be whatever coverage you want it to be. But all that I did there is I apologized for my in-service and I broke down the wall a little bit. That Trista probably said, hey, what are you talking about? What are we missing here? That's just one angle of how you can approach cross-sell. If you walk in the door and you just want to start soliciting and peddling products, you are not going to be successful.
No.
Okay.
It's so
Go
true.
ahead, Trista.
It's so true, John, because even like, and that example of you doing it, you saying, I'm sorry, made me feel like, man, like, I do. What is it that I need? What is missing in my file, John? Tell me what's missing in my file, because I don't want, and it's immediate, like that barrier that's up, like, oh, that's my insurance person's calling me. What do they want? Are they telling me that I need my premiums going up? Are they going to tell me whatever that's saying like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, let's face it, most insurance agents are not calling and telling their insurance customers, I'm sorry. So that is like a game changer right there, because that makes them say, like, listen, and you know what it shows? It shows that, John, you're a human. Because oftentimes I think that we have this mindset, or customers have this mindset, like we're just like this robot behind our computer desk hitting the buttons, but we're actual live humans, and that we do care and we want the best for our clients. And so coming from that angle, something that's so simple, 2 words, I'm sorry, can be a game changer for everything. So John, that's fire right there.
Well, and what I want to tell you, Tristan, again, everybody that's listening on here right now, yes, I'm teaching you this right in this moment as a sales tactic, but it is not a sales tactic. It is authentic. For me, that's authentic, because that's how important my job is, that if I can apologize because I didn't do something correctly and I can own that, now I'm building a relationship. They understand, just like you said, that I'm a person, I can make mistakes, but I have to have that level of intensity in the way that I apologize, because that's how important it is that I need to understand if they don't have the coverage with me, I need to at least know that they have it somewhere else. One of the worst things that you could ever have happen to you as an agent, and I hope that some of you have never had this happen, but I have. It is the worst thing to get a call from a spouse, and Tristan, I'm sure you've experienced this, where the spouse says, hey, my husband or my wife, they didn't happen to ever talk to you about life insurance, did they? And I have to make the response saying, no, they never did.
Yep.
That is a tough conversation you never want to have. And I don't care what line of business. I'm using life as an example. Yeah. Where I'd much rather say, you know what, Trista, I'm looking at the file here and I tried on this date, and this date. And, they told me they didn't have time for me. I've tried multiple times. It doesn't make the pain go away, but at least I know as a professional, I made an approach to do that. So I'm going to tell you guys, stop peddling products. Apologize for what you missed. And sometimes it's difficult to get all of the sales right at the first point of sale. That's the nice thing. Also, the other thing to understand, and I'm going to give you some more statistics here, the average consumer in today's marketplace will purchase life insurance 7 times. So you continue to make these conversations and this message with them ongoing. You have the potential to make 7 different sales in their lifetime if you become their life insurance agent. Okay? So think about that as you go through that process. But that's what I want you to think about. You have to, first off, I'm going to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to segment your book of business. If you today can't tell me how many of your customers don't have life insurance or don't have an additional line of business, find a way to get that data as quick as possible. You need that data. That data is gold for you.
Yeah.
So much so, if I was coaching in your agency, I would say we're not spending another dollar on leads until we know what you have in your book of business and how we can segment it. That's number 1. Number 2, you have to start figuring out, how are you going to contact these people? What does your phone script look like? I just gave you a sample of what I might use. But what are you going to say in an email when you can't reach these people? What are you going to say in a text message? And it's all about the level of urgency. Yeah. Trista, I was just reviewing your household like I routinely do, and I noticed that something urgent is missing from your file. Can you give me a call?
Yep.
What the urgency is, you determine when they call you back, but it's about trying to get them to respond to you, getting an opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah.
For those of you that are working with homeowners products and you don't have life, a great one to use. I was recently reviewing your file and I cannot find a proof of your mortgage protection anywhere in your file. Can you please give me a call? I need to update your file and make sure we have that.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a key one. And so I teach people how to do this. I'm giving you a very high level of what I teach people and when they really start thinking about cross-selling and going through this. So
something that I had my CSRs do and something that I trained them with is like, whenever they would reach out to that list that I had, or if they were on the phone because they were the first on the phone, and I would teach them, like, look for a life policy. Like, because if they're calling about their auto, do they have a life with us? Right. And so I would ask them, like, hey, John, like, I'm reviewing your file right here in front of me, and I see that we have your auto and I see that we have your home. But my question is I don't see, and I'm so sorry about this, I don't see that we have your life policy. Who do you have your life insurance with? And, first of all, they would be like, well, why does that matter? we would get that. And I would say the reason being is that God forbid when that time does come and something happens to you, I know that your family, your loved ones are going to call and ask us about your auto insurance and your home insurance because they're going to have to take care of that. And I want to be able to make sure that I can either guide them and help them with a death claim if you have a life policy with us, or if you have it someplace else, so that I know how to direct them and making sure that they can get in contact with your life carrier. That then just built that down. They're like, oh, I have it through work. Well, then in my head, I'm like, okay, now I know I need to attack this because work insurance, and we all know having it through work, I always say treat it as a supplemental life insurance policy, but not as your main life insurance policy, right? Because you want to be the owner of it. And so just something like that to say, hey, when something happens, your family is going to be calling us as your insurance provider. We want to be able to tell them who you have your life with. And they're like, oh, yeah, I have it through New York Life. Or, oh, you know what? I don't have it at all. It's something I need to do with. And then bam, there's the opportunity for me to jump on and say, great, I'm so glad that I asked you that question. Let's get you into this office and let's get that taken care of.
Absolutely. And so one thing I want to, for those guys that are listening on live or on the recording, what Trista said there, she wasn't selling a product.
Mm-mm.
She was uncovering exposure. I noticed that we don't have your life insurance. She wasn't saying, hey, we need to write your life insurance or I need to sell you life insurance. She's trying to uncover where it's at.
Yeah.
And so part of what I'm teaching and training people on this is how to uncover those things, how to make sure that you uncover it. That's our job. Our job is to uncover any risks that are out there so we can address as many possible risks for our customers as possible for them. That's what our job is to do that. At the end of the day, that's all we're here to do. Make sure we're providing to protect as many possible risks that our insurance could have. So that's important that you expose those. And I don't care if they've got it somewhere else. I want to know if they've got it somewhere else.
Yep.
But because it goes back to what I talked about already. They're going to purchase it 7 times in their lifetime.
Yep.
So now when I have my annual review with them, and this is something I'm going to talk to you about as well in this training, is that you have to be having some kind of review process with your customers. I like annual reviews. It's a way to expose different opportunities. But when you go through an annual review, say, hey, did anything change within your life insurance? Last time we talked, you told me you had with New York Life. I noticed that we made some additions to your home, or you bought a bigger home, or you got new cars based on your car insurance. Did your life agent contact you to make any changes? Oh no, I haven't heard from him since I bought it. Okay, well, you might want to make those changes, or if you'd like, we do this routinely, as you see, every time we do a review to see what's changed. We know you have a bigger house now. We know you have nicer cars. Is it possible that you might need more life insurance if something were to happen to you? So that's why I want to know where that information sits at. It gives me the leverage for the next opportunity that I have there. So
Yeah.
I want you to think through that process. It's just important to always uncover what property. That's what cross-selling is about. I would like to change the word so it's not cross-selling, because too many of your people are thinking in their mind, well, this is just an opportunity to sell more insurance.
All right.
If you try and sell more insurance, you're going to get to the point your customers will stop taking your calls and your emails. Nobody wants to be sold. They want to be protected. They want to know that they're valued, but they don't want to be sold. So you have to think through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So John, so let me ask you this. We hear all these great things and the potential, like we're hearing like the numbers, how they're going to, if they're monoline versus if they have a life product, and how they're going to be with us forever. And we're learning that it's 7 times more to buy a lead. And why, if we're hearing all these numbers and that cross-sell really is that number one commission check grower that 99% of us aren't doing, why do you think insurance agents aren't doing it?
Wow. So that's a big question, Trista. So, but I'll tell you, and as shocking as this is what I most often hear when it comes to cross-selling. It makes no logical sense to me, and I have the numbers to prove it, but this is what I hear from agents. I'm afraid if I call my customer to cross-sell XYZ, then they might take their insurance somewhere else.
No.
So if I contact my auto customer to sell them home insurance because maybe they earn an additional discount, which I'm going to talk about discounts, so let me forget to come back to that.
Okay.
But if I call my auto customer to try and sell them home insurance, well, they might go to their home insurance carrier and see if they can move their auto. It never works out that way. Yes, you may lose a couple customers, but you always gain more than what you will ever lose. That's the number one reason why I see customers not cross-sell. I call it the bury your head in the sand technique. If I don't say anything, then they'll stay with me. It's just not reality. Monoline customers move the most of any other client. And so the agents that are winning out there are those that have a game plan to cross-sell. That's the number one reason why I see people don't cross-sell. The number two reason why people don't cross-sell, they are afraid of the objections that are going to come up. They're not prepared. What if I call my client and I talk to him about additional lines of business? If they come back with an objection, I don't know how to handle it. Nobody's going to tell you this, but if I got down to the root of it and I'm working one-on-one with an agent or I'm working within a group and I get down to the root of it, that's what they will tell me.
Yeah.
John, I don't know how to handle objections. Well, at least you're being honest. Now we can fix that problem. So that's another component of what I teach when I teach cross-selling. It's not just how do you target them, what's your script going to say, but now that you're getting into an appointment process, how do you handle objections?
Yeah.
If you're not addressing 3 to 5 objections in every single sales process, your closing ratio is way too low. You have to go into it knowing, okay, I'm going to get 3 to 5 objections. What are the most common ones? How do I address them?
Yeah.
And I will break this down when I coach people on this. I break this down, but common is like you said, Trista, well, I already have it at work. How do I handle that objection? I call this one, for those of you who come from the Latin American background, you'll get this one. They call it the Sancho effect. I don't want to leave any money behind for my wife or her boyfriend that she's going to have after. That's a true thing. It actually happens.
Yeah.
So how do we address that? And I'll tell you this is a funny story. The way I address it is, well, do you want somebody else raising your children, or do you want to give your wife the opportunity that if she doesn't have to get remarried because you left her enough money, she can take care of herself? You have the choice in what you decide to do. So it's how you get ready to handle objections. But I know there's plenty of people that are listening right now that say, this all sounds great. I could figure out a way to segment my book of business. I might come up with some scripts, but this is where they get stuck. The fear sets in and they say, well, now I'm talking to people that I actually know. And if they give me objections that I don't know how to handle them, I might lose that client. So what you do instead is you prepare yourself for the most common objections that are going to come up, and you figure out how you're going to address those.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I use, and again, I've been in the business for a long time, so I probably get away with it, but I'm a little bit more bold than most people. But I will tell somebody, Tristan, I've said this, you have 2 options. If something was to happen to you or your family, I can either show up at your funeral and I'll bring a casserole, or I can bring a check. Which one would you prefer I bring?
Yep. Absolutely.
And I honestly will say that.
Yep.
Or if you want, I can help your family set up a GoFundMe page, or I'll go clean some cars for a car wash, or I can bring them a check so they can mourn the way that they deserve to. Which would you prefer?
I've literally told clients, John, like, hey, it's my job to ask you about life insurance and help you get protected. Don't make it my job to tell your family you didn't have any. And they're like, what? And I'm like, listen, don't make that my job. Like, and they're like, oh, I better sit down and talk about it. And really, and I know we're talking more about life here and cross-selling, but in regards to life, John, what I've found is that most people, like, there's 3 times when people think about life insurance most of the time. 1, when something really tragic happens to somebody they love or close to them, if they get a health scare from the doctor, or when you and I are sitting across from them, forcing them to talk about it. Like, that's really the only time. And so, I've had agents like that with an objection. They're like, well, I don't want them to, like, they're not thinking about it. And I've had clients that are like, oh, this is great. I'm going to think about this. Go home and think about this. I'm like, listen, let's be honest, John, you weren't thinking about this before you came into my office. And I guarantee you're not going to think about this when you leave. So let's just do us both a favor. Let's just get this taken care of today so that you can put it behind you. You can cross that off your list and you don't have to think about it again. And they're like, you know what? You're right. And then there I am writing a policy that I wouldn't have written had I not overcome that objection with that way.
Absolutely. So one thing I'm going to add, Tristan, there's actually 4. You missed the 4th one.
Okay.
More people think about life insurance because this happens every single day. You refinance your home, you buy a new home, or you get a new vehicle. Yeah. The lenders are going to sell your information to a life insurance company almost instantly, and your mailbox will get bombarded with mortgage protection offers or loan payoff offers. It happens. So that's the other time that they think about it. So wouldn't they be better if they heard it from their existing agent already, who already has their auto insurance, has their mortgage, their homeowner's insurance, because they're going to get marketed to. And so that's important to understand that most of people don't want to have this conversation. The deeper meaning behind it is people don't like to talk about death. That's reality. And so our job is to make people uncomfortable. That's what sales is about. We need to make people uncomfortable. And it goes back to what I talked about earlier, is that this is the one policy that you're guaranteed to have a claim on.
Yep.
So when I talk through auto insurance or home insurance or a business insurance policy, I will end my conversation oftentimes saying, you know what, Trista, I am so hopeful that you will never have a claim on this commercial policy or this auto policy. But there is something we need to talk about, because I have one product that we haven't discussed yet that I know for sure you're going to have a claim on. It's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
And that's how I can bring up that conversation. And nowhere in there did I say life insurance, because I don't want people to get turned off automatically.
Right.
But I need them to understand that this is a guaranteed payout policy if it's enforced. It's the one thing that I know without a shadow of doubt we're all going to experience.
Yeah.
So that's why we talk about it in that fashion. But you're spot on. Handling objection and being prepared for objections is the crucial next component on how you work through the cross-sell process.
Yeah.
So
So true. John, my husband, says this all the time. He says, hey, listen, 1 out of 1 will die. And I'm like, yes, you're right. He's like, 1 out of every 1 will die. It's guaranteed. Death is a guaranteed thing for us. So awesome. So John, let me just be the first to tell you how excited I am for this cross-sell challenge that we are going to be rolling out. I am so excited, guys, man. Listen, and this is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg of all the knowledge that John has and is going to pour into you guys with this cross-sell challenge. So John, tell us about this amazing cross-sell challenge that you've been working so hard on, that you're going to be able to help turn agencies upside down and make them get to that next level just by cross-selling.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was even hard for me, Trista, because I knew we were getting to this point, and I was like, I'm giving away too much because I get so excited about this. But there is so much behind this. And the reason that we decided that I wanted to do this, I came to the organization and said, hey, I want to do this cross-sell challenge because I just see so many agencies spending so much money on leads that I just said, let's help them find leads that are in their own book of business, show them exactly where to find them, show them exactly what to say, get them prepared on how to handle objections. We're also going to do a live needs analysis for you so you can actually figure out, how do I figure out what my clients actually need in coverage, and go through the entire process. The greatest thing about it is, though, as much as this is interactive through comments, this will be live. All the sessions where you will get a chance to interact with me, ask me questions. Anybody that's done any coaching or training with me, when you're on with me, everybody's live game to be called on, because that's how we learn the best. Everybody's having the same experience. It's just that some people raise their hand and discuss it. So we go through this, but we're going to clearly show you the art of segmenting your book. That'll be something we do really on day 1. Then we're going to work through scripting, how to script, how to set appointments, get you prepared for doing a needs analysis, working through on how you actually handle objections and work through the process of doing that. And then giving you all of the most common objections, things you're going to run across. And once I teach you these skills, you can change the product line however you want to go. The game is exactly the same. You just changed a little bit of intricacy about the type of product. We can do it around life. That's probably the main focus, but you'll see how easy it'll be to change it to auto or home or commercial or Medicare or health, whatever it might be. One thing I wanted to address too, Trish, I saw it come through the question. Somebody said, well, what if I only have one line of business?
Yes.
What's the value add that you offer if you reached out to your customers and you said, hey, I take care of XYZ insurance for you, but I'd like to know, where do you have this insurance held for you? In the event that something were to happen to you, I want to be able to talk about that with your family. So what you become is the center of influence for that client. And now you have power when you start building referral networks. Now you have people that say, hey, I've got these other additional products. They're with this other company. And you say, hey, well, if you'd like another offer, another opportunity, I have a relationship with people that can give you another option. Yeah. If you're not in a place that you want to offer additional lines. I've always been in a multi-line platform, so it's where I find the greatest strength. But I know some of you are single line and you're being very successful. But use the same logic we talked about today. Ask that question. Where do you have your XYZ insurance that you don't have with me? I just want to be your resource in the event that something tragic happens to you or your family, that I can make sure that I tie all the loose ends together. I tell you, that is a value add that no other single line agency is doing. So I want to answer that question as I'll pop up.
As an agency owner, if they have producers, how do you best encourage your producers and teach your producers to be able to cross-sell?
Well, I think the number one, and Tristan, you and I talked about this before, but I would definitely second what you said. If you are the agency owner and you have producers, cross-selling has to be mandatory. And so what I mean by that, if somebody in your agency is selling business and they cannot clearly show that they've actually asked for the additional line of business, then their compensation should be adjusted for that. And I know that's kind of harsh. Some of you may not want to hear that, because that's how you instill the right culture within your agency. Again, it goes back to that model. 100 customers with 10 policies or 1,000 customers with 1 policy. You figure out which one you want. And you also have the conversation with your producers, your CSRs, and say, I am not an endless money pit that I can just keep buying you leads. I need you as my team members to nurture the leads that we already have. Those leads are our existing clients for all lines of business. And so that's a conversation I have with my agencies and with their teams when we talk about this process. You have to hold them accountable to what that expectation is. So if it's a sales sheet, you need to be able to document either the file, the electronic version. Did they ask for the additional lines of business? Did they schedule a follow-up to talk about it another time? And the way that they are compensated is based on asking for those additional lines of business. Long-term, it is how you build a more sustainable, more profitable, higher retention agency. I guarantee it. So you have to think that way.
Yeah, so true. And I remember the first time like ever docking somebody, guys, as an agency owner, like docking someone's commission, just because I set the accountability, I set the expectation. And as an agency owner, it's so hard sometimes because we want the best for our producers and for our customer service representatives. But if I set the expectation there, then I have to follow through, because then the next time I set an expectation, they're going to be like, oh, well, she didn't follow through with that first one, so she'll be okay not to follow through with this one. And it's hard, but it's setting that expectation to say, hey, this is your job. And in fact, like each one of us that took that test, our PNC or our life test, whatever, that healthcare test, we took that responsibility to make sure that our clients were properly protected. And part of that is ensuring that we cover the book, at least to know that we've asked the question to where they're at. Something, John, that I may be stealing your thunder here a little bit. You'll be like, Trista, this is something I'm going to teach. But I think, too, something that John does so well. And I remember the day that he taught it. And I was like, yes, someone else did it, not just me. But especially with if you're a PNC, and you offer life and they decline, having them sign a declination letter. Guys, I don't know if you've ever put a declination letter in front of someone to say, hey, John, I know that we talked about this, and at this time you're declining it. Just for your records and my records, I'm going to ask that you sign this. And they start reading that. A lot of them are like, I'm not comfortable signing this. So let's just talk about that life. Well, let's just get that life policy in place. That closes deals. That closed deals for me sometimes when just by asking them to sign something, and they were like, I don't want to sign that. And then I was closing a deal for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Trista, because I am still putting the final touches on the challenge. That would have definitely been in there, but I'm going to make sure that I highlight that because I'm a big believer in the declination letter. And there was one thing I wanted to go back to because I talked about it, but one thing I'm going to tell you, all of you, I hope to see every single one of you in the challenge because if you're not there, I will tell you it won't change. You're hearing some great knowledge today. You're going to probably try one or two things. You'll do a couple things. A week will go by and you'll go back to your old routine. As soon as you invest the time and energy in yourself to learn something new and have the ability to ask questions, invest the time in it, that's when you start to impact change. But what I'm going to tell each and every one of you to change, for those of you that have the ability where you sell additional lines of business and your customers can actually get a discount, let's say you know, home life discount, auto life discount, get rid of the word discount. And what I'm going to teach you in this challenge is something that it's completely different. People don't like discount insurance. Mm-hmm. So the words that I use and say is I'll reach out to Trista and say, Trista, in reviewing your account, I realize and recognize we have unused credits in your household. Give me a call. We need to discuss those. Unused credits. You're going to get a call back. What do you mean? Well, we have unused credits. Basically, if you apply this additional line of business, you have this much additional credits that you could apply to other lines of business. Would you like to take advantage of that?
Yeah.
Much difference. There's a lot of power in words.
Yeah.
People don't want discount insurance. They want the right insurance and they want to know they're getting the best value. So that's why I talk about unused credits.
Yeah. And so true. As an insurance agency owner, you don't want to be known as the discount insurance. And so, oh, that's the discounted insurance lady, or that's the discounted insurance man. You don't want to be known as that. You want to be known as that friendly insurance agent that goes above and beyond to ensure that they're properly protected and that you really, truly play to being the second most important person in that person's life. So, man, it has been awesome. Awesome. As we wrap up, do you have anything that you want to add before we wrap up?
Well, number one, I would just say thank you. Thank you for those of you guys being here. Those of you watching the replay, I am honored that I get to be in front of such a large group, a large audience, and you took time to be here. What I will also tell you is the moment you took time to be here, now you have a responsibility to take action on what you learned today. So take action, do something a little bit different than what you're accustomed to. My entire goal, the reason that I said I want to put this challenge together and why we're doing it in the time that we are, is I want to help you reduce your expense and increase your commission going into the holiday season. This has never been a better time to reach out to your customers, give them thanks, recognize them, add additional value, and to do that at a time that you can reduce your ad spend with leads, etc., by nurturing your clients. So, Trista, spot on. If you don't want to be uncomfortable, then don't sign up for the challenge because my job is to make you uncomfortable because that's the only way you're going to grow. but we do it in a way that we care about you. We want you to be nurtured. We walk you through a process, and you're going to have action items you have to do every single day. But I assure you, if you do those, you will see an increase in your commissions, and you'll have higher retention in your book of business. So that's what I'll leave you with. I appreciate all of you guys being here. I appreciate that I was able to be with you guys in this group. This is a tremendous group. If you're not taking advantage of it, always do. We get it live as often as we can in here, but there's a ton of great people, ton of great knowledge. Take advantage of it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it has been awesome talking to you, John. It's been awesome being able to be here. MFIA, we love you guys. We're super excited every time we have this opportunity to just be able to pour our knowledge, to be able to challenge you guys, and to be able to leave you with nuggets that are going to allow for you to grow. We say something all the time within TCC. We want to go to the moon and back. So guys, get ready, get on the rocket ship, because this cross-sell challenge is going to take you, just like John said, and take you to that next level in your agency, take you to that next level as an agency owner. So we're super excited.